The world of music production can be a bit of a chaotic one with all this gear and wires. You can build yourself a really decent studio setup.
We are recording in BandLab through our audio interface.
A home studio setup that will sound 10 times better than the home studio setups that I was trying to create even 10 or 15 years ago when I was just starting. Just making music on your phone with a pair of cheap earbuds. And now, the noise has completely disappeared. Interestingly, one cheat code I'll share with you is that let's start first by talking about the most minimal of setups. Just making music on your phone, the one that you, in theory, already have. Well, it doesn't really get any more minimal than this. We have the phone that you hopefully already have, a pair of just cheap earbuds, and we are ready to start making some music. Now, you might think, oh, I need a fancy keyboard or I need a fancy microphone, but let's talk through it. With melodic instruments, we get a couple choices for how we actually can play these instruments. So actually on this vibraphone sound, I'm using smart keys, which just gives me all notes already in the key. If you're used to a more standard keyboard view, we can of course use the piano keyboard view. We can cycle through different octaves, and with the key set, it will mark notes in our specific key. Now, my fingers are kind of big, so it's not impossible for me to play on this keyboard, but if I switch to the smart grid view, now we just have equal squares. Easy to play melodies. For drums, it's just as simple. You can tap out beats right here from the sampler drum kits. Now, when it comes to recording something like vocals, maybe you're a songwriter or a rapper and you want to record at home, but you don't have a professional setup. Well, I kind of put something to the test here. So I recorded some very basic background vocals for this beat. But if you hear those vocals, you can hear that they're very, very noisy. All that noise in the background, I just went into my bathroom, turned the vent on, and recorded this. First of all, I recorded this with my iPhone microphone, which the mic in phones or tablets or even earbuds are getting better and better every year. And what I want to show you is that even if we record in an unideal environment, we can use the voice cleaner, which uses noise removal, de-reverb, and does some auto EQing to make that vocal sound 10 times better. You'll see. Before we play the cleaned version, let me play you that version that's really noisy once more. And now, the noise has completely disappeared. It's like I was not in this loud environment at all. I mean, can you believe that we went from sounding like this? And now, virtually no noise in the background there at all. So at the most minimal level, we've got our phone, cheap earbuds, and BandLab. And we're up and running, making beats and recording our voice and getting pretty professional quality. As you start thinking about making upgrades from your phone, you might start thinking about adding some screen real estate. This is an iPad mini. I use it every single day, and it's a great step up from making music on your phone. You just get that added screen real estate. You can do things like view your track levels and scan through your arrangement at the same time. But other than just upgrading your phone or upgrading to a tablet, I want to talk about two very important pieces of hardware that you can use with BandLab, namely a MIDI controller and an audio interface. If you spend a lot of time recording live vocals or live instruments like guitar and you want to upgrade from that iPhone microphone quality, an audio interface would be your priority. This is a Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 2I2 means 2 ins and 2 outs. So we've got 2 inputs here. We've got instrument inputs here on the front, as well as XLR jacks on the back for microphones. We also have audio outputs, which could go to speakers if we didn't want to always use headphones, but back on the front here, we do have a headphone jack as well. So now with a USB-C cable, I can connect this audio interface to my iPad. We can tell the iPhone that yes, this is headphones technically. So now we can directly connect things like professional microphones to BandLab via our audio interface. And when we use an audio interface, since this one in particular has 2 inputs, we need to tell BandLab which input we're using. So if I want to use this microphone plugged into input 1, I'll just navigate to the settings, I'll select an input device, and in this case, I'll want my Scarlett 2i2. And then I'll select which channel. Since I'm in input 1, I'll keep it on channel 1. Now don't forget, the audio interface becomes our input and our output in this setup. So I'm going to connect my previously mentioned cheap earbuds to the headphone jack of the audio interface. And that's how I'll hear when I'm singing or when I'm playing. So now after selecting one of BandLab's vocal effects presets with, some compressor, some EQ, some reverb, delay, I turn up the volume here on my interface.
Check 1 2, check 1 2. Hey. We are recording in BandLab through our audio interface.
And since we've got 2 inputs on this audio interface, why don't we go and connect a guitar as well? I'll connect that to input 2. And remember what we talked about earlier, we need to select the input. So since I'm using input 2 now, I will go ahead into my settings and select channel 2 for the guitar. And now, just like with vocals, I've already selected a guitar preset classic drive, which will give us a classic drive sound. Pretty dope. So we've got our mic connected, our guitar, all thanks to this audio interface, and we've still maintained a pretty minimal recording setup, just iPad plus audio interface. Now, the audio interface is for if you're prioritizing recording vocals or live instruments, but if you're mostly making beats or making music in the box with virtual instruments and samples, a MIDI controller should be the piece of hardware that you prioritize most. The MIDI controller allows us to have hardware keys or pads to have some physical interaction with our music that's one step above, just tapping on our screen. But one thing you're going to notice is that if I go to plug this MIDI controller in, I'm going to do this with USB-C because that's what this controller uses and that's what my iPad uses. As soon as I do that, we get power. Our MIDI controller is on. If I play notes, I can see, or you can see on the screen, that the notes are lighting up, but I have nowhere to plug in my headphones because I've taken up the USB-C port. This is where we start getting into the world of dongles, because if you want to plug in multiple things to your iPad, you'll probably need a way to do that. So you're going to want to look for a dongle that includes USB ports as well as an audio jack. But I have 2 cautions for you. One is that you will find dongles that look like this. This technically has a USB-C port as well as an audio jack on it, but this is meant just for charging and audio playback. This USB port is only for power delivery. It will not carry data, which we need to send MIDI data to BandLab. So just double check on any dongle you're looking at to make sure that the USB port is meant for data as well as power. The second word of caution I'll give you is that different devices have different power requirements or power limitations, so the more gear you connect to a phone or a tablet may cause issues, may not work because it's drawing too much power. If we keep things simple and minimal, we shouldn't have an issue, but this will especially rear its head if you're using older hardware like an older tablet. So with this dongle here, we've got USB ports as well as an audio jack. So I'll connect the MIDI controller and I will connect my headphones. And now I'm able to play notes and I can hear what I'm playing through the headphones. MIDI controllers come in all shapes and sizes. Many of them feature keys and pads. Those are the main things that you're going to want to be looking for in a MIDI controller when working with BandLab. Maybe if you're doing more hip-hop style production and you do a lot of sampling and finger drumming, maybe pads will be more important for you. Or if you're more classically trained on keyboards and you want to be able to play chords and melodies, of course, keyboards are going to be more relevant for you. Of course, I have the best of both worlds here with the Akai MPK Mini. This is really just meant to give you a tactile, hands-on music making experience so that you don't have to tap on your screen. Interestingly, one cheat code I'll share with you is that if you want both audio interface and MIDI controller, well, they actually make audio interfaces like this one, which, does the same thing as the one we used before. It's got 2 inputs. These can be instrument inputs or XLR mic inputs, but also on the back, it has a USB hub mode. So that means I can take this USB hub out of the equation, connect my MIDI controller to the audio interface, connect my headphones to the audio interface, and then connect my interface to my iPad. Of course, that means now I can create this very messy cable situation, which of course your studio will be much cleaner than my little chaotic setup here. But it means that you can build yourself a really decent studio setup. Again, I think this is still pretty mobile. This will fit in most small backpacks, your interface, your controller, your iPad. But I can simultaneously have my keyboard ready to go, a microphone ready to record, BandLab right here with all I need to start making music, and we've fundamentally built ourselves a home studio setup that will sound 10 times better than the home studio setups that I was trying to create even 10 or 15 years ago when I was just starting. And it's at this point I would remind you to think back to the beginning of this video when we were just working with BandLab on a phone with a pair of cheap earbuds. You do not need all of this to start making music. You should just start with what you have. And I think the magic here is that each of these pieces can be added one by one, upgraded one by one as you gain traction, as you learn more. Starting with a big setup can actually be a little too complicated, especially for beginners who are just learning. Start small and increasingly improve your setup gradually over time. Don't feel the pressure to buy everything all at once. But so far, the checklist should be: what are you actually making music on? Is your phone powerful enough to run BandLab? I think most are these days. Do you want to upgrade to bigger real estate and have a bigger tablet to work on your music with? Second, what piece of hardware would be the best extension for your music making process? Do you want to be able to record audio and live instruments? In that case, go for an audio interface. The interfaces I showed today were the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 and the Arturia Minifuse 2, with the advantage on the Minifuse being that it has a USB hub built in. If you really want to upgrade from playing notes and drums and chords on your screen and you want some hardware for physical tactile playing, a MIDI keyboard would be the next step to go. You want to think about what you spend most of your time doing, playing beats on pads or playing keys or a combination of the two, because MIDI controllers come in all shapes and sizes. They can have just pads, just keys. It's really the Wild West out there, but don't overthink it. Just go with what's in your budget and what's the size that you want. The one I showed today was the Akai MPK Mini, a tried and true MIDI controller for years. And I know this whole video I was using some cheap earbuds because I wanted to keep things, as accessible as possible, but eventually you might think about upgrading headphones to possibly a pair of over-ear headphones that are going to give you a better listening experience. But if all you have is these for now, like I said, start with what you have and start making music. There's so much available for free in the BandLab app. And then if you want to invest in your music development just a little bit more, the membership features and sounds in BandLab will help take you as an artist and your music to the next level. That's going to be all for now. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Tatro with BandLab. Have a good one.